Well, it's a good evening from the studios in Brisbane, Australia. Our guests are all the way from UK and Ireland today. So without further ado, I'll simply hand it over to Andrena.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Good morning, good day. Welcome, everybody. If you're new to Dreaming the New Dream, and it's the 10th of April, 2025. God, the dates are flying by. I got to check what day it is every day. Anyway, without further ado, it's my great pleasure to have Soma Arah on our show today. So welcome, and thank you for agreeing to be our guest.
Hello, Andrea. I'm delighted to be here. Hello, Jeff. Thank you both for having me. I'm very much looking forward to connecting in. And
yeah, so
quite sunny here in Ireland.
And we've had sun all week, and what a difference it makes. It's a feel-good factor for those that get the sun all the time. Anyway, I know we've got lots to share today, and you're a medium, a multi-dimensional channel, a Pleiadian hybrid, a Galactic channel, and so much more. There's so much more to you. Excuse me. And so I get you to start at the very beginning, because I know you had a childhood trauma, and that was the start of your awakening, if you like. And you had an out-of-body experience, and apparently Jesus has set you on your pathway that you was so unexpected. So would you like to start at the very beginning, how these steps led to where you are now, doing all the amazing stuff that you're doing?
Thank you, Andrea. What a lovely introduction. Yes, I had a very unusual childhood, a lot of trauma. I was born in Namibia, but grew up in London, in Hackney, a very impoverished area, similar to the Bronx back in the 1980s. And I would have had a lot of trauma. Mum was an alcoholic, poverty, bullied at school, abused several times by various different men. And the first conscious memory I have now of that, let me just add that when I look back now on my childhood, I see it very much as a huge training ground for a lot of experiences I had. And I'm actually very blessed to have had the childhood I did, even though it contained a whole bunch of trauma and various different situations. But whenever there was a negative that happened or a trauma, there was always a positive spiritual experience as well on the other hand, or the same hand. So I really was very blessed and actually very protected. But yes, I had a lot of trauma, and one of the first memories I have, which is probably not the first experience, but the first memory I have consciously, is when I was 8 and I had a man lying on top of me, and I was very skinny, very underfed, undernourished, just hardly anything to me, and I was tiny, and I had this huge man laying on top of me, and I literally couldn't breathe. I was gasping for breath, and the next thing I knew is I left my body and I went up to the left. I always remember which way I go, but I went up to the left and left my body. And it didn't last very long at all, just a few seconds, not even moments. It was literally seconds, I think. And I connected, or the Pleiadians connected to me. And as I'm speaking, I can feel them building behind me. And I didn't know who they were. I just knew the experience I was having, but I didn't really label them as being the Pleiadians. I just knew that I was somewhere else and I was safe, very safe. And they gave me a very short message, and it went something like, this will only last a few seconds and you'll be okay. You'll be back in your body. And there was a few that happened after that. When I came back into my body, I think I was still out of my body, because I could see in the hallway, which was in the other room, I could see my brother walking down the hallway, and then he came in the room and dragged the man off me. And then I could also see my mum in the hallway as well. So I must have been still out of my body to be able to see the hallway. And so that was my first experience. But I had several, more than several. I had hundreds of experiences. Very normal or ordinary. Yeah, and I'd always craved that. And then I went on to have another experience when I was 12, where again I left my body. I was deciding to commit suicide because I'd really had enough. I didn't want to be in my body. I didn't want to be there in that environment. You know, I'd gone through so much abuse by various different men, just one after the other. And my mum was drinking heavily, and I was being bullied at school. And I think at that time I'd stopped attending secondary school, and just was very unhappy and distraught. And I lay down on my mattress on the floor and was just sobbing my heart out, very snotty, and not a pretty picture. And then the next thing I knew, I went up and left my body again. And I went above the doorway on the right, above the door on the right. And I was looking down on my body. And it was a very long experience, about 3 or 4 hours I was gone at least. And Jesus came to me, clear as anything, and took me on a very long journey. And for about 3 or 4 hours, and showed me a lot of my karma at that age, and a lot of things about myself and my soul contract, and explained to me in great detail a lot of my soul contract and my experiences, and why I was experiencing the things I was, and explaining my environment and my home and my family, and explaining a lot of it. And then when he finished with that, he carried on to explain the bigger picture for humanity, or at least some of it. And then when I came back, I was totally blissful. I'd gone from one extreme to the other in the space of 3 or 4 hours. And I always knew it was a real experience, if not just for that alone, having gone from the extremity of wanting to leave, and then being so blissful when I came back, which lasted about 3 or 4 weeks, and that gradually ebbed away. And I never spoke of it until at least 20 or 30 years later, perhaps 20 years later. I never told anyone of the most profound experience, that I'd ever had, really. And it changed my whole outlook, my whole perspective of everything. I really was very different when I came back. And yet nothing else externally had changed. I was still in the same home, in the same school, in the same environment, with the same men around me. So, but everything internally had changed. I was looking from a very different perspective, and more as an observer than than a victim. Yeah, I guess.
That's incredible, amazing story. Yeah, because I know you mentioned that you didn't have schooling, you had like spiritual schooling. You didn't go to, which I think must be wonderful for a lot of people, because we know the system as it is a system anyway. Yeah, so what happened there then for you not to go to school and for them to obviously send you to spiritual school?
They did. I really was very blessed and actually very protected when I look back. So my school was about an hour away. It was the Skinner's Company School for Girls in Stamford Hill, just past Dalston in London. So it was 2 buses, and it was an hour. And none of us ever had any money, so it was always a struggle for me to get the bus fare from my mum. Believe it or not, she never handed it over willingly. I always had to kind of beg for the school money. And then I had to get dressed and do my uniform, and I was wearing makeup at the time, and I was quite at that age I was quite well developed as well. So it was always an effort to it was a trudge kind of to get there. And there was at least 3 or 4 times when I made all of that effort to get there, and they had these huge black gates. I'll never forget them. They were huge, and they were wrought iron and black and painted black, and they were just huge. And I used to make all that effort and then go and stand there, and I'd be held in this vortex of energy that I didn't understand what it was. I just knew I couldn't move. And I've had that over the years since, and now I understand it better as being kind of a safety energy that the Pleiadians put around me, which once stopped me from having a car accident. So I know it's a safety mechanism, and they put this wall of energy, it was huge, in front of me at the school gates whenever I tried to make the journey. And I was stood there sometimes for like at least 40 minutes, an hour, and I just couldn't move. And I was more worried about what people would be thinking, looking at me and walking by. I was just stood there looking at the school gates, but actually I was in an altered mind state and just held in this vortex of energy. And so eventually I'd forgotten that for so long. I'd always remembered going and making journey, but I got that they would put in place. And they actually said to me one day, I was asking them about it years later, and I was asking, what was that? And they said, well, we put a wall of energy in front of you. And word for word, it goes, because we stopped you from entering the school system because you would have been lost to us. And they mean as a channel. So that was one of the reasons. That was the reason they did that. So then after that, I stayed home after my experience with Jesus. I stayed home, and I gave up trying to go to school, and because it just wasn't, it was such an effort to get there. And then I began to meditate after that experience with Jesus. I began to meditate, and I didn't know that's what it was. I would just sit in my room and kind of zone out of everything into that blissful state, because it felt so good to me. And I hadn't had very good experiences up until that age. So I would just sit and meditate. And then I decided to go and get all the books from the library, Hackney Wick Library. It was a very small library, but they had quite a few books on esoteric subjects. And I was an avid reader of those books. And I was reading Edgar Cayce and Barbara Stokes, who was a famous medium in the UK back in the day, and similar books like that. So I would just, between the age of 12 and 16, that's what I did. I meditated and read, and Yeah.
Yeah, I can remember my mum mum was a medium and a healer, and she used to have all the Doris Stokes books on her shelf, and Harry Edwards and all of them. You know, that's going back quite a few years now. Gosh. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
she was old. Yeah, she was old school, and there's a lot to be said for the old school, because they were so insisted and instilled in doing things well, and doing things properly, and having some kind of structure and something to very high standards, which I think a lot of people are missing these days. A lot of the younger people perhaps are missing.
Yeah, and there's so many people who say they're channeling different people, but it's what level are they channeling? Anyway, everybody's different, so no judgment.
You're very right. So, there is an influx of channelers that are. What can I say?
Yeah. I get the message. Yeah, so carry on. So obviously, because I know you're like a world traveler, and you're doing so much as an ambassador. So what we're in the greatest time of history, aren't we? We're in the greatest change ever, and it's exciting. You know, I know everything. It's like the diamond. You have to dig deep to get the diamond and clear away all the rubble and the debris. And that's, to me, that's where I feel we are now. It's like, you know, dug it all away, and you were ready to carry on dimensionally or whatever you want to call it. Just yeah. So so that's where I feel where we are now. So what is coming through for you with the messages now for humanity? What guidance have you been given that's going to help people more and more in this transitional period?
Oh, there's so much there. There's so much information that's come through since 2019, 2020. One of the things they said and explained to me, because I'd heard before previously that the Earth would split into two and become two Earths, and I never understood that. And then around that time, they downloaded a whole lot of information to me, and one of the things was about the Earth multiplying and into two new Earths. And a new Earth is being created, and they explained how that would occur. Where there was in January 2020, there was, or January, February 2020, there was a beam of light that was hitting the Earth, and it was become so strong, so intense, that it would actually cause the Earth to twist and multiply into two Earths, and one would go into a higher level frequency vibration dimension, and the other would either stay where it was, or it would drop into an even lower frequency vibration level awareness dimension. So that was how they explained visually, very visually, the splitting or the multiplying of the two Earths. So we are very much in creation of the new Earth, and clearing away all of the old Earth energy. And I would like to add that everything that's happening now is very connected to Atlantis and where we were invaded by a negative alien race, which I believe caused the downfall of Atlantis. And we're kind of on a parallel timeline now, where Atlantis is very relevant to what's happening now, because and Lemuria was as well, because it's a great reset, which is actually a positive phrase that has been turned into a negative phrase used by the negative agenda, negative connotation used by the negative agenda. But the Great Reset, which is happening again now, is actually a positive thing, where we are creating a new Earth. There was a contract that was drawn up at the downfall of Atlantis, which allowed the negative reptilian and other negative alien races to have control over the Earth and humanity. At least that's what I've been shown. And that contract is now null and void, and it's come to an end. It's been torn up. It's devoid. The contract is finished. They had a certain time period to be able to have control over humanity and the Earth, and that's ended now. The contract's done. So how we're seeing that on the 3D is nothing is more evil than it used to be. It's just rather that we're seeing it now, and it's coming to the light in order for it to be cleared.
Yeah, and I think that's what people don't realize is with what's going on is we're clearing lifetimes of all sorts of traumas and witchcraft and all of these things. Is just everything's really being cleared, and more people are I don't want to say awakening, but more and more aware of what's going on within them, and what's going on around them, and things that are not acceptable anymore by people that are like in the powers to be, so to speak, that are not for your highest good. And there's so many more groups gathering and light workers sharing and doing their work around the planet. I think now it's just amazing what's happening.
It is. It's such a beautiful time to be here. And one of the messages I had in 2020 was that, because I understood my mission, I understood my purpose, I understood my soul contract, my reason for being here. And there's often a characteristic that starseeds have of not wanting to be here. And not fitting in, and wanting to go home. And I had that for a long time. But in 2020, one of the messages I had was that I'm not just here for my mission and my contract, but I'm here to do that within this lifetime frame which is such a huge thing, to make such a great change collectively. That it really brought me more into my body, and a very strong sense of wanting to be here to help assist with such a huge transition of humanity that is raising. I mean, we're very much on an evolutionary phase or period where humanity is evolving, and how amazing we get to show up.
Yeah. And the thing is, we often joke that we've been dropped off at the wrong planet. We didn't come here. We didn't sign up for this, But, so many people say that we're all on the wrong planet. But we know that we've signed up for this, and we know that it's been erased from our consciousness so that we can all keep going and with the gifts that we've got, and to be able to share and help humanity.
Yes. Would you like me to do a channeling?
Oh, I would love it.
Okay.
Thank you.
We are delighted to be here. As we blend with Soma, we will increase the pace of our words, as it sometimes takes a little while for her to adjust the frequency. But we are watching, assisting, observing many of you at this time in a very personal way, in a very close proximity, close connection, close existence, meaning that we that we have very personal relationships with so many of you, including you, Andrena.
Thank you. I can feel that.
You are galactic beings, and you heard the call that was sent out into space, into the galaxy, into the universe, that was by a very, let us say, physical human being who came to Earth a very long time ago as a male species, male sex, who came to your planet and saw what was occurring. And this being was operating on a higher dimension simultaneously to being human, which is also what so many of you are doing. And he put out a call to the universe, and so many of you picked up the message, picked up the energy, picked up the phone and listened and returned to Earth to assist humanity. This great shift that we speak of, that you speak of, affects everything within the universe, not just Earth, not just humanity, not just the plants, not just the trees, not just the animals who are often unobserved behaviors that have changed quite dramatically within the last 7, 10, 11 years. Animals are very tuned to your planet and are very aware of changes in the atmosphere, changes in weather, changes in the ocean, those who live close by, in close proximity to the ocean. The animals are very attuned to nature and predominantly bad weather that is to come, and those that are attuned to animals are more aware of this when the animals change behavior. So we would recommend, thank you, observing your pets. We would welcome questions as well if you have any questions regarding anything, not just animals, but occurrence.
Well, thank you for coming through and welcome. It's lovely to have you talking to us today. And I've heard about this, that when things really change, the animals will let you know, and that's when you will have some sort of inkling of a switch over or a changeover, if you like. So what would my question be? Gosh, what else can we do to keep shining our light and working with the earth at this time?
Fill yourselves with love. Frequency, energy, vibration is something that is measurable. Therefore, it can be created within you internally. Magnify that energy out. Hold that energy. We feel your energy is a little fragile. We mean you personally, a little bit bruised, delicate, fragile, and also collectively, we might add, that you have been knocked off kilter for thousands of years, and now you are realigning. So take time to, thank you, realign, readjust, recalibrate. Your earth is going back onto her natural axis because it was knocked off. At the downfall of Atlantis, before the downfall of Atlantis, even when a large object was moved into a position, or created is the wrong word, but events were created to knock the earth off its natural axis by a large object. When we say large, it's an understatement. A large object did hit your earth, which was an event that was planned, and the earth shifted off her natural axis, thus shifting humanity off its natural way, its natural DNA, its natural energy, its natural abilities, its natural environment. Things were adjusted into a negative vortex or energy, so which caused humanity to misalign. And now the earth is shifting back onto her natural axis. You are evolving again. Your DNA is changing. Your blood, your skin, your hair, your teeth, your cells, your auras, your energy fields. You are realigning back to your natural blueprints. And the earth is doing that simultaneously. So now is a time to breathe for so many light workers, for so many starseeds. Now is a time to shine, to realign, readjust. And when we say realign and readjust, we mean now, these days. March, April, May, June, July. This time period, realign yourselves, reconnect, heart center yourself, step back into your own missions, your own purpose, your own energy, because you have been bombarded with outside negative influences that have been hitting the earth for so long. Technology, poisons, chemicals, chemtrails, toxins in the air, the water, the soil around you, not to mention the technology through technology itself, meaning the laptops and computers and mobile phones, and all of that contain a negative energy within itself, which also contains a negative energy within itself, which is often targeted to negatively impact the souls that are here now for this journey of the great ascension. You are evolving into a new human being, a new species. You are us. You are us. We are you from the future. We are time travelers. We are not just from a different star system, but we have abilities to and are able to move through the timelines, move through time itself. As we are speaking to you, we are also in Atlantis. We made mistakes in Atlantis with a certain contract that Soma was speaking of just now. We were not alone in this. There were other brothers and sisters of ours that were also involved in this contract. However, at the time, it was one of the best solutions, given the spiritual war at that time. And Sirius was also a part of this contract, Lyra was also involved. That we are never really work alone. We had great impact in Egypt, great structures we created using sound, which is now coming to light. We often is the wrong word, but there are times we predict events through this one known as Soma and others, where, and some of those predictions we predicted with this one was a Florida landing, which occurred 2 or 3 weeks after we spoke of it in a recorded channeling that we did. Another transmission that was also a prediction connected to Egypt was a recent discoveries, which we also said 1, 2, or 3 weeks previous, which is also recorded. So we have always been with you. As starseeds, you are not from Earth. You are more than you understand. And even those that understand, there is always more to experience, learn, and to understand. You are exceptional beings that are extraterrestrial as starseeds. And many starseeds don't even label themselves starseeds. They call themselves healers or shamans or indigo children, rainbow children, crystal children even. Sometimes just meditators. Sometimes just awake, aware, conscious. And sometimes not even that. Sometimes you call yourselves activists. The many names you give yourselves, but you know you are somehow different. Even energetically, you are different. As you are extraterrestrial within a human physical vessel, your abilities are exceptional, which is increasing. You are creating your new earth. You are creating your new earth. We would, to so many of you right in this moment, in these days, right now, realign yourselves, clean your energy, your aura. Some of you would perhaps have had recent falls, and we would say that this was not an accident. This was a little bit more of a negative kind of targeting. And your energy needs to be protected. You Soma is being very careful with her words. But so many of you need protecting, realigning, readjusting, clearing that kind of negative debris that's in your, and we always include Soma, negative debris or little energies that feel out of alignment with you, because they are. So clear those energies away. Bring in the light. Clear your energies internally and your auras externally. Clear your houses, even if you do it physically. Have a good clean out. Bring in the light. You can visualize it. You can connect with us. We are not unobtainable, and neither is Jesus to anyone. There has been a great play within religion, where most especially within the Catholic religion, where people within that system have made intentionally made Jesus unobtainable, or the belief system that he is unobtainable, and he is not. He is connectable to every single one of you, as we are. We do not work with people exclusively. We are obtainable to everyone, as is Jesus, as was Jesus. You are divine beings. You are God's source itself. You have, many of you as starseeds have our blood, our DNA, which shows up as being rhesus negative often. You are galactic beings who, at the downfall of Atlantis, your connection was severed with the galactics such as us, because your DNA was interfered with. It was changed. This is now proven by science through the likes of Greg Braden and many others. Some of those scientists would also work with Mary Rodwell or have connection to her now and in the past. So your science proves that your DNA was altered at a certain time in your history. It was changed by negative alien race. That is what happened. You did not come from monkeys or apes. It is absurd for us to hear that.
Yeah, it does sound a bit funny, doesn't it, when you think about it? Yeah, I know when I went to Dublin, I know that a force, I when I fell over, I mean, I've not shared it, but I did fall over and I bruised my knees greatly. Still got some bumps, but anyway, I picked myself up and doing myself to get back. And I'm a great one for cleansing when I come back and decluttering. And I'm only got a small space, but I'm already got stuff that I've put out to shift. So yeah, so for most people then it's realigning, this is things I say but in Ireland I don't know whether I do protect myself most of the time, with an intention every day, and I don't know whether on that day, I don't know, because we went to so many sacred sites, I don't know, but yeah, so I suppose, do we need to protect our auras more times throughout the day rather than excuse me, once at the beginning? Or what would you say to people? Obviously, if you start off today with filling your body up with love and light, and I always say to be rebalanced, re-energized, realigned, and all of these things. But I suppose sometimes we go off track a little bit. I don't know.
Your light was seen. Your work was seen. You were shining. You were working with the light. You were bringing in light. You were standing in the light. That light is often seen by the opposite, by the dark, and the light attracts the dark. The dark does not attract the light. But you were seen, you were witnessed as doing good work, and therefore you attracted some energy that is clearing. This is a very common theme, a very common experience. Most especially when you are working in sacred places on your planet. You are doing well. We see books in you, more to come, more work, more connections, more reaching people on you. The vast majority of you as starseeds are here to reach people en masse. You are here to make such a great change. And therefore, you are here to reach people en masse. You are not here to reach your one neighbor. If you are living rurally, you are here to make changes en masse, and therefore it is evident and needed that you make changes and reach people en masse. And that is what so many of you are doing. You are doing well.
Thank you.
More crystals would be good. More water, streams, or water that runs, water that moves is different to water that is still and stagnant. This is being proven now through others' work in a very public way. So we would recommend that you be near and work with water that moves through a stream or a river or a lake or even the ocean. Stagnant water has a different energy, different frequency, different color, a different taste, a different vibration. Is very different to water that has movement, which is alive and flowing and vibrant and clean and clear and pure, and has different elements, minerals, different tastes, different everything. It is like chalk and cheese.
What crystals would you because I know I'm on a farm, and I know on the boundary line, if you like, there is water that trickles around. It's not a stream. So would you suggest putting some crystals? You know, I mean, I've got a big selection of crystals on the table that have come from all around the world, but it's knowing what would be needed where. So have you got any advice for people that have, you know, there is a quarry and just a field that's been dug down and down and down and down, and they've cleared all the trees, and the deer it used to be a big deer place, but now things have changed dramatically, and I've gone along and held crystals and thrown them over the fence, so to speak. So yeah, what would be the best, any crystals that people could help to put in rivers or streams, as well as blessing the water? I mean, that's always important.
Any crystals would be of benefit. There are often places where the soil is depleted, and we would say that this is one of those areas where the soil is depleted, and earth is needed, or new soil to replenish what was taken. But you can also work on the higher dimensions where you visualize energy coming in to those different areas. Vortexes of light beams coming down, light beings coming down. Call in everything. Call in us, call in the angels, call in the ancestors of all lifetimes that you've had. Call in the Native Americans, call in the chiefs, a team of light beings, animal spirit guides, crystals, color, sound, healing, sacred tribes, everything. Animal spirit guides, Lyrans, Syrians, us. You are very strong in, so many of you are very strong in healing with healing hands. Put your hands to the earth. Send love. Every little thing you do will end up having a big impact eventually, and sometimes in the very moment. But when you send love to something, it will do one of two things. It will either have an instantaneously impact, or it will have an impact that creates a seed, and that energy will stay there and increase and expand within those areas until it reaches a vastness that changes those areas.
Lovely. I mean, you've given a lot more information about, like with the things I do, I can add more things, and so can others, when they're doing their work. There's plenty of scope now to bring in so much more to help with the changes. Is there anything that you could share that might be about to happen for, on the planet, or anything that's due to come up? Are you able to share anything with us?
You are divinely led. We have much humor, and we find a lot of love and humor in your question. Inquisitiveness as well, and a sense of wanting to know what is around the corner. We see you peeking around the corner to look, which indicates to Soma that you have your own premonitions and perceptive energy abilities, rather, where you do peek into the distance, into the future. So that is love. That makes Soma smile, and because she is also an inquisitive one, where she likes to know what's going on, what's happening. So we would say that the 6 months, which we've been saying for a while now, is very important. November as well, and also October, are important months for humanity. For a while, we've also been saying there are great discoveries coming to your planet regarding what lays beneath your earth. A million discoveries. Everything is falling away and rising to the surface. Everything that was lost to you. Structures, symbols, language, sound, frequency, vibration, physical objects, structures, buildings, caves, caverns. There is a multitude. There are thousands and thousands of new discoveries that have started to appear on your planet as being lost and rediscovered. However, these are not really rediscoveries, rather they are releasements of information and structures and knowledge and previous history that has been hidden by certain agendas and groups or families that do not have your best interests at heart. There are many myths within your cultures that are actually true. There were such things as giants on your planet. There were many things on your planet that are now believed to have been myths. These will be rediscovered or re-released information, such as giants, large trees. Everything was much larger at one point in your history, in a certain time period. The trees were larger, the plants were larger, you were larger. The earth grew and also became larger, which affected the things had to become smaller in order to be sustainable on your planet. So with predictions, the June is important. Money will change. Money will change. Your monetary system is changing. this will most likely be the last system to change, because it is the system that governs all other systems. So it is the source, or it is a main system that runs all other systems on your planet. This was created and designed intentionally in a negative way to be used by a negative agenda, to be used in a negative way to control. Money is not really needed on your planet. However, in your current system, it is. This current system is changing rapidly within the next 2, 3, 4 years. Many predicted that this monetary system would have changed sooner than today, but it has had setbacks, and the negative agenda, the powers that be, the elites, are holding on very strongly to this monetary system, and are not wanting to give control, because once this monetary system collapses, which it will, it has to, in order to create a new earth. You cannot operate on the existing system in a new earth. So this system will collapse. Your financial crisis is on the horizon. This will change everything, because this will have a direct impact on every other system. Politics, schools, education, every system. This is a major event, and a major uprising, and a major key. Once this key is turned, there is no stopping, there is no going back.
Wow. Thank you so much for giving us such wonderful information. We're truly blessed that you've allowed them to come through and given us all this information. And it's wonderful. I can't thank you enough. And for all the tips and hints that, will help all of us to be able to do more things to help the planet at this time.
Thank you.
So thank you, lovely. So tell me, when you're channeling, have you stepped aside and you're conscious of all what's being said, or are you somewhere else while the words are flowing through? Because each person works differently.
I really step aside and let them speak, which is also connected to me not having schooling, because a lot of the information that they share, I didn't learn I didn't have that secondary school education. So a lot of the stuff they share, it's not stuff I've learned or researched. It just comes through. So I really have learned to step aside more and more and more. And a lot of the times I don't actually remember the everything. I remember little bits. But and they always fill me with they have such a strong presence of love. It's love times 1,000. And it's just so beautiful. Sometimes it makes me cry, and I'm getting emotional now. And it's just such a beautiful thing to be able to do. And I learned, and it's very connected to a lot of my childhood experiences. It really was a huge training ground for me, and I think many others are the same. When they have a lot of trauma like that, because trauma, it releases an excess of DMT in the brain, which is a chemical that causes an excess of psychic abilities. It's a doorway. It opens up psychic abilities. It opens access. It's an access point to experience the non-physical.
Mm. Mm. Incredible. You know, and it's lovely that you can give and share so much wisdom to people and help people that are wanting more, you know, like myself. You know, I love to know more, and, you know, like they say, a peek round the corner, what's going on.
Yeah.
I know that's not being in the now, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I could actually see you physically. I was being shown an image of you, and it was like you were on walking on a road, and there was a corner of a building, and you were looking around to see.
What, me?
Yes.
Oh dear. Yeah. So so like, obviously the message for people is, you know, like, obviously when they're awake or after breakfast or whatever, is to fill their own being up with light and love, and then, you know, focus on being realigned, rebalanced, re-energized, and all of these things as the start of the day. So
Yes. Yeah. And sometimes even during the day, if you're feeling low or a little bit off kilter, then take 5 minutes for yourself just to breathe and
it's
reset.
coming back to the breath. And it's coming back to the breath again. You know, that's the most important key. You know, well, if we haven't got it, we're not here. End of story. But you know, it's like when things trouble you, or somebody, you know, there's an accident and a shock, and you say, right, you know, you get them to come back here and start breathing and bringing themselves back and center themselves.
Yes. Self-care.
Yeah, and that's important. You know, it's like they say, you know, you're on a plane. If you don't put your mask on first, you can't help anybody else. And I always say to people, you know, it's about you first, and it's not being selfish. You know, there's self first, and then you can do and help so much more people when you're full, you know, doing your bit. So
yeah. Because often people, I know in the past I've tended to overgive, overhelp. And there's also the example of someone trying to help the caterpillar or the butterfly out of its shell, out of its cocoon. And in doing so, it actually damages the wings. So just, you know, self-care is important, and allowing things to just unfold, and being kind to ourselves, and patience, and, you know, sitting back sometimes and just observing and not over helping, and helping ourselves. And the mask as well, with the oxygen mask as well, is a great example of putting ourselves first. I think there's a great program within society that we're taught to put others first, and that actually can block or deteriorate our own personal growth within some of the things like self-assertiveness, self-love, self-nurture, self-worth, self-confidence. You know, we sometimes as women, we lose those things because we always put the other person first, or the husband, or the children, or the mum, or the father, and we can, as women, we lose a sense of ourselves, and we forget about ourselves. And society has a great program running where it teaches and conditions us to put others first, and actually we need to stop doing that, I believe, and put ourselves first, and then put others first. We need to kind of switch, because everything's been inverted. Everything.
Yeah, exciting times, eh? And even though on some days it doesn't feel like it, I think, oh my God. Right. So is there anything else you'd like to share today? Because I mean, you know, I don't know what your time frame is, but if there's anything else you'd like to share on anything, on any level, you're more than welcome.
my message would be just to realign, to step into love. I mean, it is literally a frequency that we can all create within our daily lives right now by listening to a piece of music or going and talking to nature. I often talk to trees and finding your bliss. And yes, yeah.
We talk to the birds and I don't worry anymore. I think, oh well, because now people don't know whether you're talking to yourself or whether you've got a bit, an earpiece in and you're talking to somebody on there. So who knows?
I always do it silently, but I do hug trees.
Oh, I
so I kind of look odd anyway.
Yeah.
I have a funny story to share with you about that. So at the time when COVID kicked off, I had a lot of anxiety around it, and I hadn't channeled the Pleiadians for a while. And so I went out into my garden and I channeled them. I had a huge garden in the UK at the time, and there were beautiful trees out there. So I went and I was meditating with a tree, and I had my forehead on the tree, and I bowed to the tree, which I do, and I had my arms around the tree, and I was just meditating and talking to the tree. And I'm very psychic and very aware of energy around me, and I see things before psychically or with my eyes closed before I physically see them. So I was doing this practice, and in my mind's eye I could see two policemen, and I could actually see them from a distance walking down, and I didn't want to pay any attention to them. I wanted to talk to the tree, so I was doing that, and then I could feel their energy beaming at me, and then they were stood there for about 2 minutes, and eventually one of them said, "Are you okay?"
I love it.
Yeah, so I opened, at which point I had to open my eyes and acknowledge them, and I said, "Yes, I'm just meditating." And she kind of smiled at me and nodded at me and kind of understood, and then she was very nice and walked off. But yeah.
Oh dear, yeah. Oh, yeah, lovely. Go on.
I was just going to add that I also do personal readings. If anyone would like one, you can check me out on somaarah.love and Facebook as well.
Lovely. All right. Lovely.
Go on. I'm sorry, Andrena.
No, it's okay. I know you're on Substack, and we don't know anything, because I said to Jeff, "What do you know about Substack?" And we don't know very little. I mean, I've signed up, but I haven't got a clue.
It's really amazing. You have to check it out. It's really amazing. It's a great platform to be on, with very little censorship that I can have seen at all.
That makes a nice change. We're not in the naughty corner.
Yes. No. Yeah. I also have groups, weekly groups that I run, predominantly for starseeds, but anyone can join, and it's free by donation. If you can give, then please do. But I always say, if you can't, it's fine. I'd rather you be there. So those are on Saturday, 7 p.m. Irish time, Sunday, 3 p.m. Irish time, and they're free for everyone to join. And all the details are on my Substack, or you can email me at thepleiadianchild@hotmail.com.
Yeah. Wonderful. Well, you've been an absolute delight, and you've shared so much wonderful information that we can all take on board and do even more now than what we've been doing before. So an absolute delight. I've really enjoyed the conversation. Jeffrey.
Yeah, very good. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you everybody for tuning in this week. Next week it's Easter, so we're having some time off. So I expect Jeff will put one of the shows up for next week. So I'll see you all in a couple of weeks' time. So thank you, Soma. Thank you, Jeffrey. And thank you, everybody, for listening.